All right, so to add our scenes to our project, the first thing we're going to do is go to the window pull down and select scene. All right, now where did mine go? Maybe I had it open already. Try that again. No, it's here somewhere. Just have to find where it is. There it is. All right, so it went to my other screen. All right, so you get a little pop-up window, and it lists, basically you should just have one scene. All right, anybody stuck or can't find your scene window? All right, so we open our scenes, and then on the bottom we're going to make a new scene. All right, so it's kind of like a new page in your book. So on the bottom left we have our new page icon or new scene. I'm going to move it up because I want this to be my intro. So just like kind of like your layer ordering, whatever's on the top is going to be first. And then I'm going to rename this to scene 1. All right, so we have our first scene. Question? All right, and just for kind of navigation purposes, let's just type on here intro. All right, so use your text tool so that when we're navigating back and forth, we know that this is our intro scene. All right, we'll kind of make this a placeholder. Now, what happens is when we play our scenes, they automatically go from one scene to another. So this is kind of another way, if you were doing animation, you could have different parts and different timelines, and that will allow them to continue from one to the other. However, in something like this, what's going to happen when we test it is that it's just going to go back and forth and keep looping one scene after another. All right. So now we have to get into what are called some of the action scripts. All right. So we have our first scene on there, and we want it to stop at this scene. All right. We don't want it to play on to the next one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go now to Window and select Code Snippets. And you should have this window that pops up. And we're going to go into the Action Script folder and then Timeline Navigation. And all we have to do is double-click Stop at this frame. All right, now it doesn't look like it did anything here, but if we went to Window and selected, which window is it? I think it's Actions or where is it? All right, so to look at our code that's been applied, we're going to go to Window and then select Actions. So this is really the code that's being applied into that frame. So if we learned about this action script and we wanted to type it out, we could do that also. But we're just going to use this code snippet. So we just double clicked it and we can see that in scene 1, frame 1, this action of stopping happens. So now if we press Control Enter, it's just going to stay on this screen here, or this scene rather. All right, so let me just check on that with everybody. All right, so the next thing we need is to get from the intro scene, or scene 1 to scene 2, we need to make a button and have that trigger that action to happen. We don't have to make it graphical. We can just use a text box. So if we just say click here to start, and that would be our call to action. All right, and then I would just convert this to a symbol as we did before, and we can call this start button, or if I could spell. We do want to make it a button. All right, so now we see it in our library. So we have this button, and now all we're going to do is go back. So with this button selected, we're going to go to our code snippets, and we're going to say click to go to scene and play, and just double click that. Now you do get this pop-up that shows up. It says it doesn't have an instance name. It will create one. Sure. Anything that the program can do that we don't have to is good, right? All right, so if I test this now, I click here, and now I see it's a button, I can click on it. But what's happened? Oh, I thought something else was going to happen. All right, so it's giving me an error. Scene 3. All right, so it's looking for a scene 3. Now, this output thing is pretty good for analyzing problems, because I can look here and see in my code now, anything in green is a variable. So by default, that was the code. So do I have a scene 3? No, I don't. I do have a scene 2, though. So it was looking for scene 3, and there wasn't one. So if I just replace this with a 2, now I can try this out. So I don't have an output message. And now I'm clicking, but it doesn't seem to do anything, right? Now I believe what's happening, and does anybody know what's happening, why I'm clicking, but it's not really doing anything? We did something to, what did we do to keep this button from looping and playing scene 1 and 2 over again? Anybody online? Noah, you have any idea? What did we do so that we didn't have our scenes loop?
We stopped it.
We stopped it at scene 1, all right? So, does that give you a hint as why or what's happening here?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do we need to do to keep it so that it goes and stops on scene 2? I guess I'm giving the answer away there, right? Because what's happening now, it's clicking, it's going to scene 2, and then it's just immediately playing back to scene 1. So I'm going to click on scene 2, and then I'm just going to put a stop action in there. I'm going to say stop at this frame. All right, so I'm going to double click this. Now let's see if my theory is correct there, if I test it. So I can click on this, and now it stops at scene 2. All right, so you have to think about what's happening in playing your timeline. So we stopped at scene 1, and then now we're stopped at scene 2, and then we'd have to continue on from there. All right, so the next thing will be to make a third scene. Or actually, I guess we could start by putting a button on here to go to credits. And then we would have to make our third scene, put in our stop action on that, and then a button going back to the first one. All right? So we don't ever want to have a dead end, because right now, basically this would be a dead end in that we're only stuck on this scene. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to help troubleshoot a little bit, and then, but if you think you understand what to do, I would like to see you have your buttons that go from this to the credits, and then from the credits back to, you can have it either go to the start screen or your second screen of the soundboard. I'm not really too concerned that way. I kind of like to start completely over, but that's what we'll be doing next.
Mr. Musa?
Okay, so there were some issues with some people's using this code of go to next or go to scene and play. I'm not sure the naming of them, something maybe got a little messed up in there. But what we can also use is if you select your button there, and instead of going to scene and play, because then you have to specify a particular scene, you can also use this one that says go to next scene and play. So basically it's going to go from 1 to 2, and then if we test that out, it should kind of work the same. All right, so that would work. The other thing too, just kind of if you're having problems, look at your code, and because every time you double click on a code, it's going to generate a new kind of string of code there. So if I do this here and apply it, it does it again, and it adds it to my code in there, my actions, and let's see if it causes a problem. Yeah, it's not really, so you may not even know it or realize that, but just make sure that your code is nice and simple. And now, because if I take that out, let's make sure that I work. Good, it does, all right? So just be very careful and conscious of what you have in here. It should be only a couple things in there. All right, so now as we were saying, I think I'm going to now make my next kind of button here. So I'm going to say credits will be, I'm just going to use text to assign that. So I'm going to type this in. I will then make it a button. I'm just going to call it credits because that's where I'm going. It is in buttons. All right. And now I need to have that. I don't have my scene yet for that. So I'm going to make my new scene. All right. This is going to bother me that it's not in order. So it shouldn't matter, but I'm just going to kind of keep them there. You could also name these like intro, soundboard, and credits if it makes it easier for you. All right, so we have our credits here, and then I will just use a placeholder, kind of just type in credits here again so that I know that that's what this scene is. Doesn't have to be a button because this is just text. And first and foremost, want to make sure we have our stop action in here. So I'm going to double click stop at this frame. All right, now if I test this, I should be able to get all the way to the credits and then have a dead end, kind of. Or wait, no, I didn't make this. I didn't apply my action to that. All right, so that's right. I have to go back here now that I have that scene created. So I'm going to select my button going to credits, and I'm going to use that same one. Go to next scene and play. All right, so let's make sure that works. I always like to do things and test as I go. Good, so that goes to my scene and it stays there. And then finally, I will have a button on here. I'm going to say start over. So I will make this into a button. Now, I'm just not sure. Let's try this out. I think go to next scene should be scene 1. There isn't really a scene 4, but I'm hoping that, because I don't want to use that other code again and potentially have some problems. So if I just say go to next scene and play again on this one, let's see if it brings us back to the beginning. So I go to my soundboard, I go to my credits, start over. There we go. All right. So we have our full loop there. All right, so that is the process of creating our buttons to make all of our scenes link together. All right, so then you just have to fill in your text and your images and stuff, your credits and whatnot on here, getting all your buttons kind of set up on here. And then the last step would be to publish this. All right, so I would definitely want to save it first. We have our FLA file. I didn't want to do that. All right. Which is our editable file. So that's like our Photoshop file or our Premiere file. We call that our native file. You can edit it. But then to view it, we're going to go to publish. Actually, I did have that thing in a rubric. Let's see if this works. If we do export movie, that's JPEGs. So no, I don't know why I had that. Let me pause this for. All right, so we're not going to make a video out of it. We're not exporting to video because that will not give us our interactivity. What we do want to do is go to publish settings. All right. I'm still looking into publishing this to our mobile devices. We have them set up for that size. What you would do normally is you would go down here, like Air, it's called for iOS, and then you have to get into what's called deployment settings. It's going to bring up this screen. I went through the licensing to get it, but I never really got it to work correctly. Maybe I can figure that out next couple days, and then you guys can publish your little apps here and have them on your mobile devices. But in the meantime, we're going to just make our target Flash Player. I wonder if we should probably do the latest version, Flash Player 30, and then all we have to do is click here to determine where our output folder is. All right, and I'm just going to put a little ending on here because I don't want to overwrite Actually, it doesn't matter. I can overwrite the one I had before. So if I do save, yep, I'm going to replace it. And then we do publish. So now if we go to that folder that we published it to, which if I can find my icon on, oh, this is covering it. Let's close our actions. So we can go to that folder and we should see our SWF file here. Actually, I made an HTML file. That's right. So actually, maybe that'll work kind of once Adobe Flash Player. As we know, Flash has been kind of like outdated. So it's not the best end result for this. That should have updated it. Let's try opening that file one more time. Huh. All right, it's gonna. So we have two files. We have your HTML and your SWF. That's what I've been working with in the past. All right, so here we go with our Flash player. It opens up in that. So, and then it clicks. We have our stuff. We have our credits. And we can start over. All right. We have in the past made a button to stop all sounds. I'm not going to go into that. Or maybe, you know, I'll talk about that. If you guys want to do it, you can, but I'm not going to grade it. So the only other thing that we would have here, as we mentioned, because you hear those sounds are kind of going, extending to the end. So we could just say stop sounds. This is probably kind of big for this, but I don't know. So we'll put that there. We'll make this a button. I'll give you guys this for extra credit if you wanted to apply this one, because I don't know if it's going to cause any issues. So this one is going to be in this category of audio and video, I think. Yes, and we're just going to say click to play, click to stop all sounds. All right, so it's going to add that to that scene. And now if I test this, let's see, I know this one's long. There it goes. So that works. So if we have that playing, it stops it automatically. All right. So just a recap there too with our publishing. So we have publish settings. Actually, let's uncheck this HTML wrapper just because that might cause some confusion. Use your Flash 30 player. Make sure you know where it's going. So it should make that SWF. All right, and then we can say publish. And now I should have my new file that has my stop sound button on there. And I think we'll just talk lastly about putting it into your Google Drive. Yes, that opens nicely in that player. So let's see. All right, stops credits. Okay, so that would test all of our functionality, and then you just have to add your details. And the last part for your project, once you get everything the way it should be, we're going to then just go to your Google Drive, because we need to get a link to this. All right, so in order to have a link, it's got to be in a cloud location. So if I just go, and you can choose whatever folder you want, but I know I have a soundboard folder on my Google Drive. So I would just drag this into here. Let's test this out, because I think what I'd like everybody to do, I mean, if you're at home today, you can do a screen share with me and show me the stuff's working, but I think what might be nicer is if, or easier, so we would take this here, we would say share. And I'll change this so anybody can view it. Anyone with the link can view it. We can say copy link and done. And now if I go to Twitter, right, or Google Plus, the currents, we can just paste that in there. So today we coded buttons to switch between scenes. All right, I'll just put that for now. Or I'll tag them at Adobe Animate. So there's my ugly link. Oh, I hate those links. And then we can say at OCVTS. Yeah, there's always link shorteners, but I just want to see if this works now. All right, so if we click on there and then click on that, wants us to use the Flash player. Let's see if this works on here. I was hoping it would have just popped up in the Flash player. For everybody, yeah, it's getting the same issue. All right, well, if we did, I guess the other thing would be to click on this, which I should be able to download it. All right, and then click on it here. Yeah, and then it opens. All right, so I guess that's what we're gonna have to do with these is download them and view them that way, or I will when you give me your files. All right. So online people today, again, if you want to screen share, that's going to be the easiest way to show me that you did this. If not, you can upload your published file to Google Drive and then share the link with me on Twitter, and I'll just download it from there.